Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be reporting about models, theories, and approaches in public policy. Okay, so let us first define what is public policy. So there are actually different definitions for public policy based on different political scientists and books and resources. But based on my interpretation, uh, public policy are all kinds of action or reaction from the government made as a response to the needs and demands of the people under its sovereignty. So these are the answer of the government as a reply to the demands and the needs of the people around it. Okay, so let us proceed to theory. So my interpretation for theory is it is a system of thought that may answer the origin of something, its effect in the present, and its outcome in the future. So when you are theorizing something, you are actually thinking of the possible outcomes and its effect without actually doing thing right away. So it is just like an educational guess. And let us proceed to the theories of public policy. So as a political science student, why studying theories of public policy very important? So to answer this question, they are useful to the extent that they direct our attention to important political phenomenon. They help clarify and organize our thinking and suggest explanations for political activities such as public policies. So if you are educated on the theories of public policy, it is easier to determine the causalities behind the policy making in the government and also the uses of public policy, how to do it, when to do it, for whom, and for what purposes. Okay, so let us proceed to the theories itself. There are actually several theories on public policy. Let's start with the elite theory. So first, let us define this term elite. So who are the elite in our society? Okay, so in political and sociological theory, the elite are a small group of powerful people who hold a disproportionate amount of wealth, privilege, political power, or skill in a society. So these elite people are only being consisted of a few in the nation or in the state. They are the most powerful. They are actually not inside always. We the people in the society don't actually know who these people are. They only know the politicians, but they don't know the the dynamism behind the politics who is running the society in reality. So what does the elite theory say? So it posits that the notion of pluralism of power in making public policies is an illusion because all public policies are made for the benefit of the elites. So the general population, mostly the poor and the middle class, has no power over the elites in making and questioning state policies. They are just mere followers. So the elite theory states that there is no choice in the making of public policies. Only the elite has the influence in policy making to their own benefit. So the the notion of choice or the pluralism of power is only an illusion. You think that you have illusion, but you are only following policies that is made for the benefits of the elite of the nation. So how can a country, a state, overthrow the elites in its system? Okay, so first revolution, and then um, a dramatic change in the government itself. So here in the Philippines, we experienced this during the martial law. So we have the people power revolution. So it omitted the elites and changed into a democratic form of government from being autocratic. Okay, so the next theory is the group theory. So according to the group theory of politics, public policy is the product of group struggle. So the government is compelled to make policies as a reaction for the struggle being fought by these groups, thus creating new policies. Power equilibrium is dynamic. It is directly affected by which group assails in the power struggle and influence the government to favor the winning group's demands in making public policy. So example of this is just like this, the Kilusang Mayo Uno. So if groups like this are relentless in their uh, to voice out the sahod or the wage increase in the labor force in the Philippines. So if the government is already tired of hearing their voices, they are compelled to make policies to adjust the minimum wage of the workers in the Philippines. So these are the factors needed to solidify the influence of a group to gain influence and political power. So these are wealth, organizational skill, leadership quality, bargaining skill, access to decision makers, and luck. So of course, wealth, you need money to mobilize everything in a group. Also, a great organizational skill, leadership skill. Overall, this constitutes a solid group that may influence the state to favor their request and to promote their advocacies. So let us proceed to systems theory. So the systems theory is originated first introduced by David Easton in 1953. So it borrowed some of the idea from behavioral literature such as psychology and in biology, also sociology. So it focuses on the human action and its relation to the events happening in its environment. So it is more of man and the versus the environment. So the systems theory conceives public policy as the response of the political system to demands from its environment. So this is the graph that shows how the systems theory work. So first, the physical or social environment, the political system produce demands and supports. Here it is. So the environment or the people or all the phenomenon, um, they make demands and support or inputs that they relate to the government or political system and the government do public policy as a response. So this is the output, decisions or policies. Then it will generate feedback once released to the environment. So this type of this model of public policy is actually um, a non-ending. This is a cycle. So every output makes new feedback and then it requires new inputs. Let us proceed to the institutional theory. So, institutional theory is the study of government institutions, such as legislatures, executives, and judiciary, and how public policy making is affected by them. So, it concentrates on describing the more formal and legal aspects of government institutions, their formal structure, legal powers, procedural rules, and functions in an attempt to learn how public policy takes place. So, this theory attacks or focuses on the forms and structures of the three branches of the government, which are the legislatures, executive, and the judiciary branches. So, what it does is it studies the structure, the core, how the three branches of the government works, what their duties are, in order to give light to the reason how public policy making is being. And let us proceed to the incremental theory. So, incremental theory involve limited changes or additions to existing policies. So, these are slight adjustments to existing policies to make them better. Policymakers examine a limited number of policy alternatives and implementing change in a series of small steps. Incremental decisions tend to reduce the risk and cost of uncertainty and is also realistic because it recognizes that policymakers lack the time, intelligence, and other resources. So, incremental theory is often done when there is a limited time, limited intelligence, and other resources in the government. So, what you do is you just make small amendments, small adjustments in the existing tested policies instead of destroying the old policies and making a new ones. So let us proceed to the rational choice theory. Okay, so this theory assumes that voters and political parties act as rational decision makers who seek to maximize attainment of their preferences. So, based on this picture alone, what would you choose? You are the driver of the if you are the one who is in charge uh, to the lives of five people or one people. This is the analogy, my analogy. This is actually used in utilitarian analogy by Bentham. Okay, so yeah, it formulates whatever policies will win the most of the votes and voters. So we are actually choosing the best policies to formulate by the numbers of votes by means of numbers, not by subjective means, but objectively. So, in attempting to win elections, political parties move toward the center of the ideological spectrum to appeal to the greatest number of voters. So, if you are a politician trying to win the next term of your office, you are wise, you are going to make policies that will gain the most votes in the next election. Okay, so policymakers using it are expected to take these following steps. First is to identify all the value preferences currently existing in society. It may be uh, in the BPO sector, the health sector, education sector, whatever sector of the society. You will assign each value a relative weight and then discover all alternative policies available to accomplish these values. So you are actually exhausting all the alternatives. You are picking the best, know all the costs and consequences of each alternative policy, then select the best alternative, which is also the most efficient in terms of cost and benefits of social values. So are you are maximizing the gains and minimizing the money spent in making public policies. and also favoring the majority that will also give you the most votes in the next election. But this overlooks or oversees the minority. The minority is being ignored in this type of policy making because they are not winning. They are being outnumbered by the majority, of course. And because of this, many will protest. Minorities may protest the decision in of the government in this kind of policy making. So let us proceed to the different types of public policies. Okay, so first is the distributive policies. Okay, so the distributive policies of the government focuses on making public policies about distributing the budget of government. Policies made to fund the rural projects like dams, flood control systems, highways, hospitals, and schools, and also projects in the urban as well, just like the flyover, the museums, everything. And but in rural areas, it may greatly benefit them by making them new jobs opportunities on industrialization. So in general, distributive policies of the government is focusing how to distribute the money of the government, how to distribute it to in making infrastructures that is owned by the government to help the constituents. Okay, so the next policy type of policy is the regulatory policies. So based on the root word regulatory, it regulates, just like in this picture. There is a warning in every cigarette that are purchasing if you are a smoker. So there are two types of regulatory policy. First is the competitive regulatory policy, so policies that set limits to goods and services. Just in this example, uh, also in cigarette, there is a warning about the dangers of cancers when you are smoking. And also another example is you can't smoke when you are underage. You can't buy liquors or alcoholic drinks when you are underage. You can't enter the bar when you are underage. Um, rules like that. And then the protective regulatory policy. What it does, it set standards for private properties or corporation to protect the public from the potential negative effect like pollution and other health issues. So what it does is it gives big factories standards like health protocols, what to follow to protect the people and the environment from the pollution and the health issue that is impending from the byproduct of factory. Okay, so third is the redistributive policies. Okay, so this focuses more on balancing the wealth distribution in the society. It involves deliberate efforts to shift the allocation of wealth, income, property, or rights among broad classes or groups of the population. So this focuses on the taxes. So for example, the sin taxes. This is a part of the redistributive policies of the government. Or like if you are working, if you have like below 20,000 monthly salary, you are exempted to the tax. And after that, if you are higher than 20,000, you are being taxed based on computation, but I don't know the real numbers. But those are just types of. So let us proceed to the constituent policies. So this. are concerned mostly with modifying or changing the way government works by changing how the institutions works, or they create executive power entities or deal with the laws. So everything that is a change in the law or a change in management of government offices or government owned corporations, such as this this picture, the PNP, Bureau of Agrarian Reform, or every office of the government, every change that is made is under the constituent policies. So it is actually made also to promote the common good so that the people could avail new and better services. So this is the end of my report. Thank you for watching.